Hello and welcome to The Benefit Whisperer with your host, Ralph Weber. Ralph, good to be with you again.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, Bill. Good to see you again.
It's good to see you as well. One of the jobs that Ralph has done in his life is that of an air traffic controller. And believe it or not, there is a connection, or at least a through line, if not a connection, to what he is doing now versus that old job of being an air traffic controller. And Ralph, I'm dying for you to tell the listeners about that connection, because you and I talked about it a little bit, and I think it's really worth you sharing.
Yeah, well, thanks, Bill. I agree. As an air traffic controller, it's a really, really interesting job. It's a fun job. Okay, first of all, it's very stressful.
Thank you. I was going to say, wait, let's don't oversell the fun part of this job, Ralph.
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
So it's kind of like this giant video game, where you're, no, I'm just kidding. But in air traffic control, you have all kinds of airplanes. You've got propeller, jets, passenger planes, fast ones, slow ones, all different speeds. You've got wind, okay? Wind at the ground is coming from one direction. At a different altitude, it comes from different directions. So you've got wind speed, which affects the speed of travel, moves you to the left, moves you to the right, headwind, tailwind. You've got all different altitudes. All of these planes are starting in different places, going to different places. So you've got within your assigned control zone, maybe 50 planes at a time. They're all flying on instruments. Okay, they're in clouds. It's at night. They can't see anything other than, their own little radar.
Right.
So they're flying blind, really, and they're going all these directions, all these speeds. Your job as an air traffic controller is, number one, to keep them apart, keep them from hitting each other, because they don't have lanes like they do on a highway. There are airways, but you have to get them to where they're going safely. Okay, sometimes routing them around weather, etc. And that's what I do with my clients. I've got all different kinds of clients going all different directions with all different kinds of goals, all different kinds of obstacles. And it's very similar. It's really amazingly similar, Bill, how the coordination is the same.
That's fascinating. It makes a lot of sense, and I like the analogy a lot, because there are large, giant corporations, and there are, like, I have a friend of mine who owns an excavating business, and he has maybe 10 guys that work for him and have worked for him for a long time, but he's a small businessman.
Mm-hmm.
So how you go from, and we did touch on this in the last episode, but how you go from air traffic control and all of the algorithms and everything that goes with that into looking at benefits for small companies. I understand how it translates, but how did that interest occur?
Well, I don't know at which moment the coin dropped and I decided this is what I want to do. I think there were several events that led to it, but that air traffic control experience and time, was in a capsule. When that was over, I did a few other things, and I really, like I said, I really enjoyed it. I love working with people. Okay, I'm not the kind of person that can sit there's a time and a place for these people, and I love them to death. Actuaries, accountants, and stuff. And I have a very, very analytical mind, so I can do that. But I need to be with people. And, air traffic control is great, and you're working with people, but over a microphone. Okay, you don't see them other than potentially on your radar screen, or if you're in a tower, you see them outside of your window. But working with people and really understanding where they are, where they want to go, and how to get there. Now, a lot of them have an exact idea. Hey, I want to reduce my costs by X percent, and I want to get there this way, that way. I want to have something great for my employees. I work with all kinds of employers, all kinds of individuals, business owners, hospitals. And this one hospital that I was working with set up a plan that would save them more than $49 million a year just on their pharmaceutical spend. Okay. Worked with a group in North Carolina. They have about 800 employees, about 450 on the health plan. 3 years in a row. The first year we saved them $1.5 million. The second year, 1.9. The third year, 1.7. Okay. And that's on about a $5-6 million spend. So it's not on a $100 million spend, which would be 1.5%. It's on like a $6 million spend. So consistently saving them money and enhancing.
Double-digit savings.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And every single year reduced their cost over the previous year.
Well, let me stay with the analogy of my friend who owns a small business, right? I know one of the things that used to torture him a lot was that every year when he sat down with his accountant said, you got to cut these benefits. You got to cut these things that you provide for your employees. And it used to torture him. It really bothered him because he knew these men, they had been working for him for several years and stuff. So when you talk about saving money, I mean, it's easy to save money by saying, well, I'm going to cut this, and this. Mm-hmm. But does that always translate into cost savings means fewer benefits, or how does that work with you?
You know, it's funny that you say that because a lot of people think that that's the case. Okay. They think, well, how do I cut costs? I'm going to increase the deductible. I'm going to make my employees pay more, increase the copays.
Exactly.
You know, have a narrow network, you know, go to fewer doctors, et cetera. And that's the exact wrong way to do it. Okay. Now that can lead to short-term savings, but in the long term, it's going to come back and bite you. Okay. You have to really identify the problem. And here's where the analysis comes in. I studied, and I don't remember if I told you this last week, but I studied the state of Tennessee. They have 139,000 employees, $2.7 billion of billed charges, $1.6 billion of paid claims. I looked at all of these claims, I analyzed them, and I saw huge variations in pricing. For a CT scan, the average billed amount was $635. The high was $19,800. I mean, 3,000% from the average to the high. So you've got to identify these kinds of things. Where is there leakage? Where is it coming out? So instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to make the employees pay a higher deductible or higher copay, find out what the plan's actually paying, okay? And once you analyze how much it's actually paying and why, and, you know, like, how come we're paying $19,000 for a CT scan? Then you can really address these issues and customize that plan to not pay something that's 3,000% above the average.
That's fascinating. So, well, remind us, what is the name of your company again?
It's Route 3 Life Health Disability, Inc. Also, we do business as Route 3 Insurance and Financial Services.
Okay. That's the name to remember. Remember Route 3. And then you can go from there. And we'll get into contact information later on in the episode as well. How many people do you have working with you or for you at this point, Ralph?
We have 7 employees, and we work with a lot of brokers. So they're not my employees, but they come to me as their general agent. I help them to design plans for their clients. So probably we touch more clients through our broker network, but we also have a lot of direct clients as well.
Explain the difference between direct clients and brokers, because if I'm listening to this and I own a business, would you want me contacting you, or would you want me going to a broker to contact you, or how would that work?
If you have a broker already that you like, that is working well for you, that you get along with, that's doing all these right things, that is bringing these good recommendations to you, then absolutely have your broker contact me. If you don't have a broker or you're not satisfied with your broker, then you can contact us directly. Either way.
Oh, that's fantastic. Which leads to, how do you get new clients? Is this how you do it, or what do you do?
Yeah, I speak a lot. I give a lot of continuing education talks on different topics. And as a matter of fact, just before this episode that we're doing right now, I interviewed somebody for a position that I'm hiring for, and she had actually read one of my blog posts and used it to explain a certain concept to a client. And I said, wow, I mean, that's kind of cool. So, you know, I get a lot of clients through education. You know, I put it out there, and, you know, it's one of these things that, wow, I hadn't thought about that. That makes a lot of sense. I get it. Wow, cool. You know, I want to talk to you. And, you know, it's great having people reach out to me and say, hey, I read that article that you published in Wall Street Journal. I heard your interview on CNN or Fox Business, or, they see an interview, they hear an interview, and then they contact me, or the broker contacts me because they say, hey, I heard you speaking about such and such. So that's the way that most of my clients come to me.
No, that's great, actually. What makes you different from other competitors? I don't know. I don't know that you've got competitors in this field. You probably do, given the fact that there are brokers out there doing this sort of thing. So what separates you? What makes you different?
I like to think that I don't have competitors, but there are a lot of people that do similar things to what I do.
Ah, okay.
And sometimes I will refer a client to another broker and I'll say, hey, I think that this is a better fit for you. Do you remember that Christmas movie? Which one was it? There was that one where the Santa Claus at Macy's was sending clients to other stores.
Oh, yes. No, that was the very first Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It. Yeah. And I kind of do that, because sometimes I say, hey, like, I see a really good fit for you. I think that this will be a fit. And usually it's somebody that I work with or know well. Okay. So, when I listen to a client and I really understand what they want, first of all, then I kind of go back and I gather some data, and then I see, here's what they want, here's really what they need, but let's start with what they want. And then over time, we'll kind of massage this and just kind of mold it to where it needs to be. And whether it's working through their broker or directly with them, we get them to where they want to be.
I'm not going to lie. I'm fascinated by this, Ralph, because I wasn't aware that this kind of service existed, and it seems to me to be a crucial one because, well, number one, business costs are always important when you're running a business, but they have to be balanced against, your employees, and I think most employers care about their employees. I think there are some bad people out there who are, but I think most employers care about what happens to their employees, and that creates a sort of sense of attachment between the two of them, right?
Absolutely.
What can people expect when they come to you and sit down? What's that experience like? Walk us through that a little bit.
To dovetail into what you were saying, a lot of clients, especially the larger ones, they like to deal with these large brokerage houses.
Yeah.
Okay, because they say, hey, I'm a big employer, I need a big broker that has like 30,000 brokers. And a lot of them are really, really good people, but to some of them, you're just a number. You're just a number. Okay, to us, you're a person. Okay, so when you come to me and you say, hey, look, I love my people, I believe that the better I take care of my people, the better they will take care of our clients. Okay, and that's the bottom line. You said something else about, improving efficiency. And, I said, well, you can increase deductibles and copays, but that can have an adverse effect, right? Studying and doing the right thing. Now, there are three ways for a company there's probably thousands, but three main ways for a company to become more profitable. Make more sales. Okay. But if you make more sales, how much gets to your bottom line? 1%, 10%, some companies 30 or 40. Okay. But not 100%. Okay. Cut costs. Okay. If you don't buy that computer, you save $2,000 right into your bottom line. Okay. But without that computer, people are using older ones, slower ones. So it affects productivity. So cutting costs, sometimes if there's wasteful costs, maybe, but a lot of people, they cut back on marketing, they cut back on people, layoffs, etc.
Right.
The best way for 100% return on the dollar to go right to your EBITDA, right to your profit, right to your bottom line, is by making your benefits more efficient. Again, and that's without increasing the deductibles. Just if I can save 10% on my benefit costs, that's going to go right to my bottom line.
Wow. What is the reaction to your typical client when they sit down? Do they believe you, or do they look at you like, I don't know who this guy is and I don't know if I can trust him?
Both. I show them actual data that we've gathered where we have analyzed spending of health plans. Often I will pull out their plan document. I had a car dealership in Nashville years ago. I looked at their plan document that they had signed, that they had agreed to. One of the clauses was very, very interesting. It said, you, the client, cannot go to the providers and ask them how much they were paid by us, or how much they billed us on a specific medical event. Any such audits has to be done through us. Okay. So wait a second. This is a self-insured employer bill.
Okay.
They are the insurance administrator is administrating their money, but then they're saying you have no right to ask the people we're paying your money how we paid them, you know? And I said, did you ever read this clause? I mean, you signed this. It's a 68-page document. Some people do read every page. And when I showed them, I said, they're basically telling you that they have the right to spend your money how they want to, and you have no right to question them.
Exactly.
And it goes back to what Milton Friedman once said. Did I ever tell you that?
I love Milton Friedman, so please refresh our memory for all of us.
Milton Friedman said there are two kinds of money: your money and my money.
Yes, absolutely.
There are 4 ways to spend money: me spending my money, you spending your money, me spending your money, and you spending my money. Okay? So when the insurance company is spending your money, okay, they don't have the same due diligence as if they're spending their own money, number one. Okay? Your employees, if their claim, their medical claim, their doctor's visit, their prescription, their MRI, their surgery, they're not spending their own money. Okay? They're not spending your money, they're spending the insurance company's money. So you don't have that same level of due diligence. When I talk to an employer, and I love to attend their open enrollment meetings and actually run those open enrollment meetings, I get all the employees together and I say, hey, people, this employer that you work for is a great employer because they have a self-insured plan. Instead of sending money to the big insurance company, okay, they're self-insured. So your contribution, the $100 a month that you have to pay for your benefits, is going to go towards getting a physical for Bob. And the money that Bob spends is going to pay for the MRI for Mary. And it's all our money. So the better stewards we are of our money, the more sustainable our costs will be. And then they really get to understand that they're taking care of each other like a family would. And that's when you see a change in how people react. And it's really super important for employees to buy in, be part of that.
That's kind of radical, it sounds like to me, Ralph.
I didn't think so, but
I mean that in a good way. That's not.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Well, I sure never had that spiel given to me ever at any company I ever worked for in open enrollment. Mm-hmm. It was like, how much money do you want to spend? Do you want to spend a whole lot of money and get a really good plan? Or do you want to spend less money and get not such a good plan?
It's funny because one of my clients a few years ago on the West Coast in the Seattle area, Pacific Northwest, said, I really want for my employees to understand this. Can you work this into your presentation? That was like probably 4 or 5 years ago. And I said, I put it in. And then all of a sudden I listened to myself say it. And I said, yeah, wow, this is super important. So I started talking to all my clients about this. Now, there's a time and a place for a fully insured benefits plan where you're spending United Healthcare money, Blue Cross money, et cetera, et cetera. There's a time and a place for those plans. They serve a very good purpose when it's right, okay? And often it is, okay? But just as often, if not more often, it makes more sense to be self-insured, okay? Especially if your employees are generally, decent health, but even if they're not, you can put in stop loss insurance to cover for those kinds of losses. So, it's a matter of not going in there. And one thing a lot of potential clients or potential brokers say, hey, just send me something. Well, I can't really send you something until I know what you need and what you want. Okay.
Mhm.
I need something from you before I can send something, because it's not like a car salesman where all I've got is Toyotas. And that's, like, or like Henry Ford, right? You can have any color as long as it's black, right? You know,
Exactly.
I'm not a one size fits all type of a shop, right? We're the kind of a shop that listens to our people. What are you doing? What's worked? What do you like about what you've done in the past? What hasn't worked? What are the things that's affecting, the costs or the success of the benefits plan or the individual succession plan, whatever aspect of their finances that I'm working on. I need to get that information so I can analyze and then come back with recommendations.
Well, good. Let's get into the process. We don't need to go deeply into the process, but for somebody who's listening to this and they're thinking, this sounds compelling and interesting, and I want to get into this. What does your first meeting look like? And you've touched on this a little bit already, but what do they need to be prepared to provide? I guess that probably comes during the first meeting where you tell them that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that I need to know about a potential client is who's making this decision, what team, what parts they have. HR is part of it, the CFO is part of it, the CEO sometimes, in smaller companies is part of the decision. What's important in the decision? Do you want something that's easy to use? You can go into any doctor's office in the country, show your card. Oh, yeah, I get that. Yeah, come on in, $25
Hmm.
copay. Or do you want to get more creative? Like, do you really need to save more money because you want to increase your staffing or your marketing, increase your profit? Everybody, like in air traffic control, has different needs. They're going at different speeds. They're at different altitudes. They're at different starting points. Okay. So I like to gather all that information. I don't really have a form. There's not a checklist where I
Mm.
go through all these points. Uh, Again, because every client's different. So, it's a matter of saying, okay, here's where you're starting. Okay. This is what you've been doing in the past. This has worked. This hasn't worked, or nothing's worked so far. Okay. So what does success look like? And how long before you want to get there? Do you want to be there in 6 months, in 3 years? Do you want a quick fix that's only going to last for a year? Or are you in it for the long haul? All of these things are important in the way we create the plan ultimately that'll suit your needs.
Yeah, so bottom line here is that this is an intensely I'm going to use the word personal, but because I can't think of another word, it's individualized. It's an individualized to each company kind of approach. That's what I'm trying to say.
It really is, Bill. Again, it's not a one size fits all approach. I don't have products on the shelf that oh yeah, I got just the thing for you. Now, there, occasionally that actually happens, but in the minority of cases.
Hmm. Wow, this is fantastic, and this is great. And so it leads me to wonder and ask you, for folks who are listening to this who want to reach out and get in touch with you, Ralph, how do they do that?
Well, they can do it by email, Ralph at thebenefitwhisperer.com, or they can call 832-924-3330.
Can they go to thebenefitwhisperer.com? Will that have more information for them?
Absolutely. We've got our episodes posted there. We've got some blog posts. We've got some articles, how to contact us. That's all available there.
Fantastic. Wow, that is great. And for those of you who are listening to this while you're doing other things, which is that's when I typically listen to podcasts.
Right.
And you don't have a pencil to write down anything, you can just check the show notes.
Mhm.
And you can write it down when you've got a more opportune time to do so. The other thing you could do this one now actually, is just become a subscriber. Hit the follow button. That way, every time Ralph drops a new episode of his podcast, you're notified and you won't miss another podcast. I'm also going to ask you to do something as well. If you like this podcast, if you find it compelling, interesting, you find it useful, Share it with people. Tell people about it. Word of mouth promotion is invaluable, and yes, we would very much appreciate it. Until next time, I'm Bill Tucker. On behalf of Ralph and everybody at Route 3, thank you for taking the time to listen today. And remember, today you can go out and make it a great day or not. It's your choice. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Benefit Whisperer podcast. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Looking to reach out? Visit our website at www.thebenefitwhisperer.com or give us a call at 832-924-3330. And don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of the Benefit Whisperer. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be used as a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.